I've never played my cards close to my chest. I have literally told everyone every single card that I have, and then I tell them what I'm gonna do. And don't think people have not tried to, overplay my hand. Like, it's okay. I know that that's gonna come. I'm just that confident that everything that I want will work out the way I want it. The only thing I can't confirm is the timing.
You are listening to My Rejection Story, hosted by Alice Draper.
Okay.
Nokuhle Kumalo is a finance content creator. Our South African listeners may know her from her YouTube channel, which recently hit 100,000 subscribers. I think it's at like 109,000 as of recording, where she shares financial tips and adulting advice. Or you might know her from her book, Get Ready With Me, the Work Edition. Nokuhle is also a chartered accountant, an Alan Gray Fellow, and one of my dearest and oldest friends. Nokuhle, welcome to My Rejection Story.
Hi, Alice. Thank you so much for having me. This feels so funny and awkward because it feels like a normal catch up just between you and me. But I know this is professional, so I'm gonna try bring the professional Nokuhle. Thank you so much for having me.
Bring the regular one. That's why I invited you here.
Thanks. I was about to tell you there is no professional Nokuhle. It's just one.
Yeah. That's the whole point of running your own show. Okay, my first question for you is: can you tell me a time in your life where you felt like you were being rejected or you were rejected?
I don't know if this applies, but I feel like when I was doing my whole studies, because I studied accounting, I just felt like that degree was rejecting me throughout the entire time. I just felt like I was forcing myself into a mold that wasn't really made for me. So I actually wanted to be a teacher growing up, and then later on, I thought, oh, I'll be a doctor just because I'll get that nice title. Dr. Kumalo had a nice ring, okay. But I realized I'm terrified of blood, so I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna be a teacher.
Same girl.
And then my dad obviously discouraged this because he was a teacher and he felt like he wanted more for me. So he kind of steered me into a different direction, and that's how I ended up in accounting. So I felt like I was going through rejection the entire time, trying to do this thing. I was good at it, I won't lie, but it just still felt like I was doing too much for a degree that I knew was not for me, if I could say so. So yeah, I tried to make the best with what I had, but eventually 7 years later, I jumped off that ship. I was like, actually, it's enough now. I'm good.
Yeah. What I think is interesting is for listeners who don't know, like I was there on the outside watching you do your thing, and no one who knew you would have described you as being rejected by this career, because they're seeing this girl who's like gone from straight A's, scholarship, finishing her degree in record time, finishing her articles in record time, getting qualified as a chartered accountant, going and working and abroad as chartered accountants in America and Australia. So from the outside, it's like no one's looking at that being like, damn, this girl getting rejected by this career. But I think that there's something interesting there, which is that it wasn't a fit, and you knew it wasn't a fit all the way along. Right? So there's there's like a double side to this, because on the one side, you felt like you're getting rejected by this, but by you opting out, which you've now done, and deciding to run your business, and for listeners who don't know, she was growing her YouTube account right the way through university, through her degree, through university and through working. So this was not like an overnight thing that she did when she quit her job. So, but I think the other side of it is you felt like you're getting rejected, as you just said, but then also by opting out, in a way, I think you received a lot of backlash from your community, because it's not seen as the desirable thing to leave a corporate job, to leave this very prestigious title you have now acquired, and go run your own business. So can you talk to me a little bit about that? How have you navigated that, and how do you feel about that? Like, please.
To be fair, my community's actually been very supportive. I think people who are on the journey are always like dreaming about leaving. So it's like, someone actually did it. But also on another, and flip side of the coin is, I think my rejection with accounting wasn't because I didn't like the work. No, I could do the work. I could actually still go back to accounting and live a happy, normal life until I'm 80 something. But my personality was just clashing. It was like every single morning I have to wake up and just try my best to not be too much of me. I'm a very bubbly person. I love people. When I get to a space, I might be shy, but I'm trying to get to know everyone. By the end of the night or the end of the day, a work day, I have friends in every single corner. I am chatting. Everyone knows me. I know everyone because I never forget a name. But that isn't really normal if you're an auditor. If you're an auditor, get in there, do the work. Everyone is avoiding you. People are scared of you. And they're going to ask you, when are you leaving? So I felt like every single morning it was like, oh, to the point where some of my clients would be like, I love you as a person, but I hate the job you do. Or I'd have some clients even asking, you're such a nice person. When you guys are done with the audit, could we be friends? I'd be like, no, that's just not how it works. You are never friends with your auditors. I will not even go grab a coffee with you because independence, okay? We need to be independent in terms of our mind and appearance. Someone looking at us, I just audited your massive company. Now we're having coffee. Are you telling me I audited you? Well, then. So I felt like I needed to find something where I could still do the accounting, I could still do the risk analysis that I do on a normal day, but still be building relationships with people. And I feel like with my YouTube channel and my book, I'm able to help people, to help them identify their different risk factors in life, while still being the friendly digital big sister that I always wanted to be. Yeah.
I love that so much. And that you recognize that and recognize that this was a movie you made and you needed to
Mm.
make and you made it anyway. Did you ever
Mm-hmm.
doubt the decision?
Yo, do I ever not doubt the decision? Is probably what you should be asking. I feel like every entrepreneur who's ever had a job will go through that. So even if you're a writer and you maybe came from a stable job and now you're deciding, oh, I'm going to write a book, you're probably going to go through so much self doubt, especially in the beginning, because it's like, what have I done? I had a good solid life. How am I going to do this? Am I wild? And there's this new term on social media called Delulu. So it's like, I'm so Delulu. Why am I doing this? So
The
I
Delulu,
definitely,
I'm a part of the Delulu club. I'm a big believer in the
Delulu
Delulu
is
club.
the Salulu. So I've definitely gone through that. I'll give you a story. In fact, on my not my 14th birthday, on the 14th of December rather, which was my birthday last year. Um, the clock struck midnight, and I was like, "Yay, I'm 26." And then I was like, oh no, I'm 26 and I don't even know what I'm doing with my life. I don't have a job. I can't tell you what I do in a sentence. I don't even know how much I earn because one month I could be earning this, and then the next month it's,
Yeah.
am I okay? So I felt a lot of, not regret, but I was anxious. I had a bit of anxiety to the point where I applied for a job. On the eve of my birthday, I applied for a job, got called in for an interview a day later. And then when I got to the interview, I was like, this was a big mistake. They were asking me questions and I was just flying through with the answers. And I was like, I know they're going to give me the job. Like, that's when I realized that I should not be doing this. The fact that I already knew that I had the job, I didn't have much preparation, but they were so impressed. And I was like, of course they're going to be impressed. I know the value I bring, but this is not what I
Yeah.
should be doing. So then I obviously had to reject them, and I felt bad because I've wasted their time. I literally applied midnight on my birthday, got an interview 2 days later, and now I'm telling them never mind. But
Yeah.
it was also validating. I'll tell you that it's validating when you're an entrepreneur to know that, okay, should this not work out, there is still demand for you in the workforce. And I think I was doing that for myself, but also for my parents, because yeah, so having a kid that is an entrepreneur or trying to be a writer is probably the most stressful thing, and probably was not on my dad's bingo card. My mom, I think my mom's pretty much, she goes with the flow. As long as you're happy and alive, she's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's been great. I am happy. I have set targets where I'm like, okay, by this time I should be here, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And you won't necessarily meet all your targets, but sometimes you surpass them or sometimes you just fall short. But the fact that you do have a tracker inside is good because at least you know you're tracking your growth. And if you're not getting there, there's a reason why, as opposed to just going with the flow and hoping that, this Delulu little trip you're on will work out. Yeah. So definitely have some regrets, but not enough to go back yet.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
What
I
regrets do
always
you
say
have?
if I ever go back, I always say if I ever go back to corporate like prematurely, like if you see me going back before I'm 30, just know I'm pregnant and I didn't plan it and now I'm panicking, so I need maternity leave. That's what I always say.
Now we know. Now, like, if anyone
Now
wants
you
to
know
come
my
in with.
secret. Yeah, if you ever want to put a bet on whether I'm pregnant or not, just check if I've applied to go back to it.
What regrets do you have?
Don't have many because I want to say, oh, I regret not starting sooner or I regret not leaving earlier, but I think I actually timed it perfectly. Um,
Yeah,
Obviously, I think if I had pushed my online teaching persona faster, that would have helped me. I would be a lot further than I am right now. But in the same breath, I want to say I might have not tapped into that had I jumped out sooner. I might have had a lot of regrets. And I think,
yeah,
yeah, I think I jumped out at the perfect time. It was just after I'd qualified, so I'd had a bit of taste of what life is like as a chartered accountant, but not enough to say, oh no, I can never leave this job because when I started earning more, my expenses were still very minimal based on the life I lived as a trainee. So even now as an entrepreneur, it's like I'm used to working with less money. Okay, so this is not a
yeah,
shock. Whereas people who do stay on in their careers for a longer time have a bit of an issue pivoting out because it's like, are you really willing to take half of your salary? Like, are you willing to
yeah,
cut it by 50%? Probably not. You probably have a house that you're paying for. You might have kids, bills. There's a lot. The older you get, the more you accumulate. So
yeah.
I think I'm
Lifestyle
happy.
creep be real. This
Yes,
brings me to
ma'am.
a couple of thoughts that stuff that you
Mm-hmm.
talk about when you're a personal finance girl. So you talk about the stuff, the money side,
A
but
lot.
also
Mm-hmm.
one of my clients often would refer to this as the golden handcuffs, where what people would be stuck in a corporate job and feel like they can never leave. They're handcuffed because of that big fluffy salary that they're getting every month and all of those lifestyle expenses that they can't just push away because now they have bought their furniture on finance and bought their car on finance and bought all of these things on finance plans that you can't necessarily just say, oh, take my car back because the car's not going to go back for what you paid.
Exactly. It's
Um,
not as simple. It's so much easier getting the stuff on finance, but trying to take it back.
yeah,
Good luck.
not so simple. So that kind of makes me think just first in your story, and then we can chat a bit about the finance side. Making that decision to step out,
Mhm.
like obviously it helped that you hadn't let your lifestyle expenses surpass or
Catch
reach
up.
what your salary
Mm.
was, so you had that room to take that risk. But I think like a lot of people who have spoken to, and I know you went through this, anyone who leaves a job to start their own business goes through spirals of doubts before making that decision. Can you put me kind of into your brain? What were you thinking, and how did you manage to develop the thoughts to convince yourself that you're going to take the plunge and do it and give yourself this shot? Because I think so many people don't, and they're still ruminating over one day I'll leave, but they haven't left.
Got you. No, I think my spiraling story was actually quite fun. I don't know if I'm allowed
Yeah.
to say that, but yeah, I had a lot of fun. So I worked in Johannesburg in South Africa for 3 years, and that's all I knew. That was my first job and my only job. And then after I qualified, I moved and worked in Philadelphia in America. So that was a new step, okay? And I know a lot of people might expect that, oh, working from South Africa, then working in America, oh, it must be such a big step. It was a step, but the opposite way. Like, I was more
Mm.
relaxed. There was less stress. And this kind of just proves my point that South Africa and its workforce works really, really hard. So when you get to a first world
Mm.
country, you can kind of relax a bit because
Relax.
you're not working under the same pressure, which is obviously not what media will depict. A lot of us think, oh, working in America is so hard. Oh, wow, one day I wish to get there and do this. But I've been there, I've done that, and I can tell you now, cool. And also want to mention, I only worked for Philadelphia for like a week, and then I was transferred to the New York office, which seems like a
Mm.
dream for a lot of people, but for me, this was my worst nightmare because I went to America to relax. I was there on a paid
Ah.
vacation with a little bit of work. So moving to New York was a bit of a mess because New York is known to work you to the bone. That is where
Mm.
the exchange is. It's the hustle and bustle. It's the Joburg of America. Fine. Get
Mm.
to New York, long working hours, lots of work, but still not as much as South Africa. As people we do complaints, of course I'd be like, oh, I'm so tired, blah blah blah. But
Yeah.
it was still a better feel versus the amount of hard work we put in South Africa. But when my time there ended and they asked me if I'd like to stay on, I was like, no, thank you. I'm good, thank you. And I remember my partner kept asking me, what can we do to make you stay? And I was like, and you don't want to, like shoot yourself in the foot and like leave badly. So I'd be like, oh no, let me go think about it. I'll let you know if I want to come back. But I knew not really my vibe. So I went back to South Africa and spent 3 months in a sabbatical. And that's what I
Love
called it. It was a
it.
sabbatical. My dad was like, are you an unemployed chartered accountant? And I was like, no, I'm on a sabbatical.
Which you
So I
so
took a sabbatical.
deserved. Like, you went
A
through
hundred
years and
percent.
years of grilling, hard work, and
And
long
I had
hours.
been wanting one. I remember I wanted to take
Yeah.
a gap year after matric, but I was like, I don't really know what I'd do. And then I was like, okay, I'll take a
Yeah.
gap year after university. Then I was like, I don't really have money to finance this gap year. So this was my version of a gap year, just much condensed because it was only 3 months. And I was a professional daughter. I ran errands with my parents. If they needed anything, I was there. But the funny thing is, it reminded me of how much I loved being around my family. I'd spent so much time away from home because I studied in Cape Town, and then I worked in Johannesburg, also South Africa, but still away from where I'm from, which is Pietermaritzburg
Yeah.
in
A flight
KwaZulu
away.
Natal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a flight, but you don't go that often. But being home for
Yeah.
those 3 months made me realize that I've missed having so much community around me. I've missed being able to just sleep in and wake up and my body wants to wake up, not just because my alarm has gone off. And I'm quite a late riser, but I sleep very late. So I can work until 3 a.m., no problem. But do not wake me up at 6 a.m. I am the least nicest person at that time. So waking up at the time I wanted and sleeping whenever I wanted, that really was great for me. But I was like, still not really sure what I'd do. I was trying to shoot content, but it was just a bit awkward. I was also getting back to my feet, so I was like, okay, let me just do one last leg. Let me go to work in another country, still in audit, and see if this works. So I went to work in Melbourne, Australia. Got to Melbourne, Australia. It was still a secondment, still with the same company, but so completely different from my experience in New York and my experience in Johannesburg. Melbourne was probably the best place I've ever worked in. It had everything I thought I wanted. It had work life balance. The salary wasn't as great as New York, but it was higher than Joburg.
Mm.
Um, but it was enough. I mean, our company was also paying for a lot of things. So I was like, yeah, I could do this. But 2, 3 weeks in, I realized I have everything I thought I ever wanted in a work life. And I'm seeing people on the weekends pushing
Yeah.
their strollers. And I remember my manager never contacted me on the weekend. Weekends are sacred, they are for your family and your friends. No working on the
Wow.
weekends. You shut down your laptop at 5 p.m. And if it's busy season, you work until 8. So I'm like, but you only
Yeah.
start at night. So I was like, this is the life. but I still didn't like it. It was still not enough to make me go, oh, I could do this for the rest of my life. So that it was at that point in my spiral that I realized no matter how great the circumstances are, even if they give me everything I want, it will still just never be enough. I still don't feel like I am doing the best that I can with my abilities. And that's when I realized that actually I need to leave. I have to find something else. I need to find something that excites me, something that makes me feel like I'm living in my purpose. Yes, auditors are required in the world. The world, needs auditors. We need some form of control. The same way you need police, okay. But that just was not the role that I think I was here to do. So I had to bow
Yeah.
out graciously, but yeah. And then obviously the spiral after that was nonsense because my dad's like, okay, you left your job, now what? I'm like, hey, I don't know, but I think I'm moving to Cape Town. You and what army? You and what money? I was like, relax, I'll figure it out.
I
And
have a
yeah,
YouTube
I
channel.
and you know how hard that is explaining to parents who are like, yeah, we watch this stuff for fun, but what do you mean this
Yeah.
is what you do? But shame, I did explain to my parents to let them know that I'm not just a YouTuber. Like YouTube is one of the things that I do,
Mm,
but there are many other things that I'm trying to explore. So yeah, I think my parents are happy now. I mean, it's been 8 months. I'm still alive. I'm still looking the same. I'm paying all my debts. So I think they're like, okay, clearly whatever she's doing is working.
the
Let's
money's
let her
coming
do her
in.
thing. Yeah.
I just want to say I'm so proud of you. Like when you told me, when you
No.
told me, I was so proud of you. And I know that, like, with my clients and with a lot of people that I talk to, it's what you're explaining is something they only figured out in their 40s, 50s, like post burnout, post like something really dramatic and tragic happening where they're like, oh my
Mm,
God, like I'm miserable and I never liked this. And I just did it because everyone told me to. And I thought that would make me happy.
mm.
So I just like, yeah, I wanted to say that. Um,
Thank you.
and I think like to get personal, because we go back a long time,
Yeah.
listeners, we've known each other since we were 10 years old. And one of the things that has always struck me about you is what I call chutzpah, which is like an
Mm-hmm.
audacious confidence. Um, and you had this ability to speak your mind, and to go after what you wanted in life. So I think you posted a video on Instagram some time ago where you were talking about being bullied in school, and you were talking about like going after what you wanted in spite of people not like supporting that all the time. And I was reflecting on that, and I was like, it really was one of your standout qualities from a very young age. And for any listeners listening, we were at a former white school in South Africa. Apartheid ended in the 90s. So basically, you were the first generation of Black students in a formerly white school. So
Mm-hmm.
there's things like racism at play. Like all of our teachers were whites except the Zulu teachers. And generally, as you said, you're getting bullied. I don't think that the system was designed to be like, yay, bubbly, loud black woman speaking her mind, like black girl, little child speaking her mind. Yet that's what you did. I don't know if you remember this. I remember being 12 years old and you were like saying who your crush was, like in front of the whole class. You're like, this is my crush.
I
And
had
one
so
day,
many crushes.
and you were like, he's gonna be my boyfriend one day. And I remember like watching an absolute awe because I couldn't even admit who my crush was to myself, let alone one other person, let alone to the whole class. But I think that this ability to like speak to existence what you want, like say it out loud, whether you're putting it on Twitter when we got older or whatever,
Mm.
was one of your, like, it's like the whole Delulu thing. Delulu is a Delulu. You knew you wanted big things for your life. You spoke it and you went after it.
I think
I don't know.
my chat is there's nothing I've ever wanted that I never got. So
Exactly.
why am I gonna stop talking now? Like there's I've been trying to think. I think I had a conversation with my younger brother a couple of days ago. He's like my best friend. We talk every single day. Um, we
Happy
were
birthday to
talking
him. It was
about,
his birthday
yes,
today, right?
it is. Thank you. We were talking about, I can't remember what I was talking about. I think I was talking about, I can't remember, but he basically said, "Oh no, I was actually going to talk to you about it. I saw it on your close friends. Don't count your chickens before they hatch." And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, just try,
This way.
play your cards close to your chest, just so that. And I was like, let me tell you something. I have been on Earth for 26 years. I have never played my cards close to my chest. I have literally told everyone every single card that I have, and then I tell them what I'm gonna do. And don't think people have not tried to, overplay my hand. Like, it's okay. I know that that's gonna come. I'm just that confident that everything that I want will work out the way I want it. The only thing I can't confirm is the timing. Timing is what is,
Mm-hmm.
the uncertainty when it comes to me. I'm never sure when it's going to happen. Like, for example, my key thing in life, everything that I base my decisions on is me being a mom. I know I want to be a mother. When? Now that's a good question because I don't know. I can say, okay, I'm planning to have kids at this time, but I don't know. Maybe something's going to happen along the road. Obviously, touch wood, hope nothing happens. But I know at the end of the day, that's what I want. Right. And then I roll it back. Okay, for me to have kids and for me to be in my motherly feminine role, what do I want? Oh, I'd love a loving husband. Okay, cool. So that's where we are. How do I do that? Okay, I need to have a loving boyfriend, loving, supporting boyfriend. Roll it back. Roll it back. Where am I going to find that? Okay, I need to be looking, which is why I've always been so audacious about my crushes because I'm like, that would make a great husband. I never want to be in a position where I am just accepting a guy just because they approached me. No, I
Yeah.
want to have also seeked you out and also vetted you out because I'm going to be co-creating with you potentially.
Yeah.
I need to like the person you
Need
are,
to be the
not just
best
the
I
way
can
you.
get.
Exactly. I'm already bringing a lot, okay, but I'm only 50%. I don't think I can hold up your end of the deal. So I've always been very specific about what I want, and timing can't really confirm
Yeah.
that. But in terms of the qualities I want, the type of life I want, very, very sure of that. And I'll get it. The only way I don't get it is if unfortunately I die. But I don't think
Yeah.
that's on my bingo card this year. But touch wood again. And I'm
Hey,
not
guys, if you
superstitious, but I also I'm not superstitious, but I also don't want to be, testing the waters. So,
Yeah.
but just to answer you in terms of me being so confident in a school where it was, not really designed for me, I think I learned that quite early. I think my dad is also one of the, like, I speak a lot about my dad, but I have both my dad and my mom. It's just that my dad and I have the same personality. So I think he was able to spot it quite quickly that, oh, I went through this when I was a kid. She might go through the same thing. Whereas my mom is my polar opposite, if I could say. So when I'm having a tantrum or I'm crying, my mom's just like, I don't understand why she's doing that. Like, how are your tears going to help? Whereas my dad is like, fine, just cry it out. And when you're done, we're going to fix it. I'm like, cool. Thanks. Just give me
Yeah.
my 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's why my dad and I have had so many of these conversations. And I think there was a time in high school where my dad was coaching me or training me without me realizing. Because I told him one random day in grade 8, I want to be head prefect. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. 2 days later, I was like, yeah, head prefects do 1, 2, 3. They also get 2, 4. And I was like, okay. Then the next time I brought it up, my dad was like, okay, clearly this is a recurring thing in this girl's mind. Let me actually entertain her. And my dad asked me, has there ever been a black head prefect before? And I was like, I'll check. And obviously, we have those boards. So I looked through all of those
Yeah.
names and I was like,
White girl, white girl.
none of these surnames sound like black people. So I told my dad, no, I don't think we've had a black head prefect before. But I was like, okay, just confirm. So I obviously asked around. I was asking, this is me in grade 8. I asked, I think one of our teachers, I was like, has there ever been a black head prefect? They were like, we are a forward thinking school. We have deputy head prefects who are black. And I was like, okay, she didn't answer my question, which clearly means we've never had a black head prefect. We've had deputies, but never head. Told my dad, and I think at that point, my dad was like, okay, cool. Either I prepare for her for disappointment or we try our best to give it a shot. And we were talking every time my dad fetched me, be like, okay, how was school? What did you do? Talk to me. And we had so many meaningful conversations. We'd hear something on the radio, and then my dad would switch off the radio and be like, okay, talk to me. What do you think about what was said? And I'll be like, one, two, three, four, five, six. And then he would also rebut, and I'd be like, yo, aren't you meant to be my dad? You're meant to be nice. And he was like, no one's going to be nice to you. So I was like, okay, cool. So I think my dad definitely has prepped me for that, so that when I did get to the point of being considered for these things, it was like, I was so used to it. I mean, my own dad would not let me win a debate just because I was a kid.
Yeah.
I had to prove my point, and if I cried, it means I lost. So I did that. And that helped me because even when I got to corporate, we all know corporate was not designed for black women. It was for,
Yeah.
yeah. So I also had to cement myself there as well. So it's been great. I think I'm happy to see that I managed to get into these spaces and overcome them and be one of the best. But yeah, I think I'm also ready to be in a space where I'm not constantly proving myself. It does get tiring.
Yeah.
Every single morning you wake up, no, that cannot be my life, can't be my portion, which is why
Mm.
I'm pushing Lomaku, because Lomaku is designed for me. It is all about.
Do you know that I give away a copy of every author who comes on this show's book? All you have to do to enter is subscribe to the podcast, review it, send me a screenshot at media@hustlingwriters.com and tell me which book you're answering for. And I might just be mailing you a copy of the book, but also you're helping me grow a show that I am so passionate about, so delusional about. I wanted to be on Times Square. I want to be interviewing the biggest and best authors, and I need all the help I can to get there. Your subscribe means the world. Your review means the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's resume with the episode.
About me. Yeah.
I love this so much. One of my clients, Kelly Thompson, she uses this word often when she talks about like breaking glass ceilings, kind of
Yeah.
changing the status quo is both and, which is both the system needs to change and I can take agency and take action towards this. And so what I was hearing from you, which by the way, I didn't know about the story of your dad coaching you, which is just like, love it so much, is that you spoke this to existence. So in grade 8, you said, like, I'm going to be head girl, which I didn't know, like, because for anyone listening, like, she did become head girl in a school of 1,200 students. When she became head girl, the whole school stood up and applauded and screamed, which had not happened for any previous head girl as far as my memory goes.
Can I just tell you? Can I just stop you there? When that happened, when they announced me, because we knew like 3 hours before the whole school, just so that we could get through our own, jitters. When that happened and they announced me as head prefect, and the whole school kind of stood up and people were clapping and people started singing the national anthem and people were like, "Oh, Nelson Mandela," I was like, "What?" Okay. But obviously, I was happy that people were happy, but I was also like, oh my goodness, what is going on? Okay, let me not say who, but the person who had called us kind of held me and said, "Don't make me regret this." because, because basically the school was unrowdy and they kept saying, "Girls, sit down. Girls, that's enough. Sit down." And then that person was like, "Don't make me regret this." And then I obviously approached the podium and I greeted everyone. And then everyone also went crazy. And I was like, I love that people are happy, but I was also so scared because what if they say, actually, never mind, she's not head prefect. We cannot have this chaos. Black people bring chaos. Goodbye. Not happening. So it was, yeah. My moment of glory was also a moment of a lot of anxiety because I was like, they could still say they made a mistake. they could still say,
Which,
actually,
yeah,
never mind.
which speaks to being in those systems, the racist systems, whether it's a school or the corporate environment. They, by giving you that position of power, they're in a way using it as a means of controlling you. I know you've spoken about like
Mm.
not being allowed to give a greeting in Zulu in front of the school. A greeting in English and Zulu, everyone would have understood that greeting. Like, and
Also,
also
it's
like
literally
people should,
South Africa.
yeah, like people should understand how greetings to you are is in Zulu, in
Mm.
KwaZulu Natal, not just in South Africa, the
Look,
province. Anyway, um, that
mm.
both and so that like both the system needs to change, and it's not fair that you went through all the hoops you had to go through, but also you did use what tools you had to be elevated as much as possible. And I mean, like through being head girl, your straight A's, your scholarship. So this ability to speak your mind, would you peg it to your dad? Because I think that that's something that I've seen with marginalized communities so often is it's harder. Like you will see, for example, in a university class, you'll see the white guy speaking up more, and we think that maybe I remember like when you're 18 years old and in your first politics lecture you think, oh, they must know the most, that's why they're speaking the most, but actually it's just because the system has been designed for them and it's easier for them to speak up the most. So yeah, so like I'm curious kind of what your thoughts are there in terms of.
Yeah, at UCT we had a running joke. A lot of the white boys would always start their sentences with "but surely," but surely this is so everyone knew. And when they had their hand up, we'd all mouth "but surely," and they would literally do it. And there's nothing wrong with those words. It's just that they were questioning the lecturer, but it was always coming from a,
Mm,
"Are you dumb? Like, are you really saying
yeah.
that?" Lecturer would be like, "Okay, 1 plus 1 is 2," and they'd be like, "But surely it should be 3. Surely." And it's like, do you want to take the lecture? Because But anyways, to answer your question, I obviously don't want to give all props to my dad. He did play a role, but I think for him to play the role, I must have shown something as well. So I do want to give myself credit
Mm,
for that.
yes.
But I think I've also been pushed into like a lot of circumstances which I didn't like, and I realized, okay, it's either I keep quiet and keep it moving, or I say something. Then I realized that keeping quiet kind of doesn't really help, because it's like, okay, you're just gonna keep quiet for the entire time. So rather say something,
Mm,
rather just let the whole house burn.
mm,
Obviously not a literal house. Um, but I also just want to mention, I also realized that I feel like I grew up in a new South Africa. So we were post apartheid and we went to the same school. Alice, you and I were friends. So I was like, I'm having the same education as my white friends. We're at the
mm,
same school. Um, we all get fetched by cars. So we're just the same, you
mm,
know? It's the same. I love it. But then I realize that in certain spaces, when I get there, the assumption is that you and I are not the same. Um, Even when we're at school, the assumption will always be that, oh, because you're white, you're probably smarter than me. So I was like, what is going on with that? Similarly, in corporate, if it's a black woman and a white person, the assumption is that the white person is the manager and I'm, the subordinate. And there'll be
managing,
times where I'm managing them and it's like, oh
yeah.
no, this is not going to work. Like, this is not going to work. So I've always tried to be quite upfront and set the tone, just that there's no level of disrespect, because once you do cross that line of disrespect, it's kind of very hard for me to forgive or to see in another light. So I do want to say, maybe it's a protection mechanism. I'm trying to show you who I am so that you can correctly identify me. And then if you continue to not identify me appropriately, then okay, cool, you and I are not going to be friends. Good luck. you know
Mm,
May the
mm,
best person win. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how to answer this. Um,
yeah.
I also do want to add though that I have been very blessed with parents who are good at learning and unlearning. Um,
Love
I'm going to
that.
speak about my dad again. My dad, Zulu man, not too traditional, but also not a guy I would just approach and be like, my boyfriend did. Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
What boyfriend? No, my dad is still very strict. But my dad and I have had these conversations. I remember I told him the one time, in Zulu culture, you don't look at your parent in the eyes when you're talking to them. It's considered rude. You don't look at older people in the eye. You look down. It's like you're shy. But then in grade 4, with our teacher, Mrs. Ford, I remember she was asking me something and I kept looking down, and then she thought I was lying. And I was like, no, I'm respecting you. And then she explained to me that you need to look me in the eye so I know you're telling the truth. And I was like, okay. And then I went back home, and obviously, when you're a kid, your teacher plays a big role in teaching you. So you always want to follow what they've said as opposed to your parents. When I got home, started looking at my dad in the eye when I'm talking to him because I'm not lying. And then my dad was like, "What's up with that? What are you doing?" And I was like, "No, Mrs. Ford said I need to look you in the eye so you know I'm not lying." And my dad's like, "Okay, cool." But then when I'd be outside the house with other older black people, I wouldn't be sure. And I'd look away or I'd look them in the eye. I was like, and then I told my dad, I'm having a bit of a problem. I don't know whether to look people in the eye so they know I'm not lying, or to not look in the eye so that they know I'm being respectful. So my dad was like, okay, cool. So I think we're going to have to do it differently for different people. So with your teachers and your white people, look them in the eye. But black people kind of be shy. I'm like, okay. And then I was like, but with you, what do I do with you? Because you understand. And he was like, you tell me what's more comfortable. And I was like, I'd rather not look you in the eye. He's like, okay, cool. So I literally switch when I'm with, white people, or I'm in corporate rather, I'll look you in the eye. But when it's a personal setting, I am shy. I am not really looking you in the eye. I'm talking to you, but I'm looking at other things just because I don't want to disrespect you. Another example of having to code switch is the your language. Okay, I speak
Yeah.
English, but when we were at home, my dad was like, he doesn't want English in the house, and I remember thinking, what is wrong with this man? I am gonna get left
At
behind. My
school,
friends,
at school, you're gonna get in trouble for speaking Zulu. Just by the way, like the code
exactly,
switching, like.
literally. And I remember thinking, my dad is literally an enemy of progress. Like, where did this man come from? But now that I'm older, I'm so grateful that I can speak perfect English because I was gonna learn that. I'm at school. But nesizulu
Yeah.
ngiyasikhuluma kahle futhi, and njengamanje ngeke uzosho ukuthi ngiyakwazi ukukhuluma isingisi. And I know you didn't hear what I said, but I just said I can
You
also
said you
speak
can
English.
speak Zulu.
Yes, it's scared that you are my friend like that, so you definitely do understand my
I
Zulu.
don't speak a language, but
Yeah, so I it's a skill, and also learning to speak different languages at different times helps you pick up other languages quickly. Afrikaans,
yeah.
I last did Afrikaans formally in primary school, which was grade 7. But the other day I was at a shoot. I was doing some ad, and the director and producer were speaking to each other in Afrikaans. Then they'd come back and translate for me in English, and I was just watching them the entire time. But on the fourth day of our shoot, they said in Afrikaans, and I started doing the action. So they're like, "You understand Afrikaans?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Why didn't you tell us?" I was like, "Oh, you didn't pay for the Afrikaans. I didn't know if you guys wanted a multilingual person. You should have told me. Would have charged more." But that was also just my way to see if they were going to say anything rude about me in Afrikaans, and luckily they didn't.
Yeah.
I also speak Setswana. I also speak Xhosa. I'm trying to learn Shona. Like, I am very good with languages because my dad told me,
Yeah.
you will speak Zulu, you can speak English at school. Helped
Yeah.
me.
And
Hated him at the time, but love him now.
yeah, I think it's something that happens a lot as kids losing their home language because, English becomes the language of medium in schools, and then sometimes it's not as used as much at home as it could be. So, yeah, I love that
Mm.
so much. Um,
I hope I can pass on the same thing. I am very anxious about that because I know.
It's hard because you may not be speaking Zulu at home. I think with intention and getting your kids, this is unrelated to this podcast, but getting your kids friends who speak the language and don't speak English because the dominant language wins. So like get your kids some Zulu friends who don't speak English.
No, I will definitely make sure they also spend a lot of time with my parents during school holidays. See, I don't even have
Yeah.
a child, but I'm already telling you about my future children's school holidays. Yeah. Just if you ever forget what I want in life, just know kids,
Yeah.
money, and obviously a loving husband and support and family and support, whatever. But
And a great
I want my
business,
kids.
and those kids are coming.
Yeah.
um, okay, so let's chat about your book. Get Ready With Me,
Cool.
Work Edition. So, for anyone
Ooh.
who has never picked up a copy, what can they expect inside this book?
So this book is actually meant to be a survival guide in corporate or actually in the workplace. So I found that a lot of people were finishing university and not really sure what to expect afterwards. And you can ask your parents, you can search on Google, but the answers you're going to find are not going to be very specific to South Africans. In this instance, for example, my dad had very outdated information when I asked him, how do I buy a car? And then when I checked on Google, I was finding a lot of articles, but a lot of them spoke to the US and the UK. And yes, principles are, the same across, but there's certain nuances that you do want to bring in as a South African. So that's where I come in. So this book will take you from how to structure your CV, how to ace your interview, what you should wear in corporate or at the workplace, what you should not wear, tips, don't gossip with your colleagues. You don't know if those are going to be your real friends or not. Also, you might be gossiping about someone they like. How to buy a car, how to find an apartment, how to check your apartment, because we all signed leases and then it's like, oh my word, you signed the worst lease ever. How do you get your deposit back? There's so many questions that people have, and there's no real one answer or one universal answer. So this book aims to try bridge that gap. It's also just like having a nice checklist that you can tick against to say, okay, I've done this. What's next? Because there are videos now on YouTube. Luckily, people are coming forward with more information, but
Like
not everyone wants to
you.
watch a video. Yes, people like me, and that's obviously where you can find the resources for free, because not everyone wants to buy a book, so you can find that on my YouTube. It's just that the content there might be scattered, and also you won't have the checklist. And there are certain things that I wouldn't mention in a YouTube video because it's short. You have to keep it under 15 minutes. Whereas with the book, I kind of have, creative freedom to give you examples so that you can even work through it. Because I think the real lesson is when you actually do it yourself, when you've written it down, you've put it on paper. Again, I am the queen of, speaking things into existence. So write it down. Tell us what car you want. Write it down. Look it up online. How much does it cost? Calculate the installment. Are you being realistic or do you need to find something else? So that's what you can expect in a Get Ready With Me book. This book is a book you are meant to finish. I didn't make it long just so I can have a thick book to say I'm an author. No, you write in it, and then when you're done, you can toss it or you can give it to someone else. But because there are sections where you write your own things, where you write your own goals, your own wishes or whatever, it's ideal that everyone gets their own copy. Yeah, so that you're not,
Mm.
spreading your own private information. Now someone knows your first car, dream car was a Ferrari on a 10,000 salary, Ferrari. I
Speak
mean, you
it to
can do it.
existence. Like
You can do
follow
it.
your
Let me know.
follow your model. Maybe there's like a sugar daddy there or something. So
No,
just
I,
follow
I,
the form.
I, I am a realistic. I'm a realistic Delulu person. Okay, I am not Delulu to the point where it's like, how on earth am I gonna do this? No.
Well, I think you have a plan. You like just like that head girl dream, even though, there hadn't been black head girls before. You had a plan from grade 8. You were like, okay, now these are the steps that I need to follow. How like and you put them into
And do
practice.
it to the point
So
where they can't deny you.
yes. So I mean, I think here, like, you can kind of see what would be different from the YouTube is that, like, there's checklists, it's color coded, and I love like the colors, so you can really like browse through and get to the sections you want, accessing, and the
Yep.
lingo, the questions, pro
I
tips,
also made it ring bound just
recommended
because I knew people
exercises.
would be writing in it. Oh, sorry,
You can
I'm,
keep a
I'm
pen.
cutting.
Uh, no,
Exactly. It's
sorry.
because I'm saying I also made it ring bound so that people can actually open it and have it flat so that they can write in it. Because in a book, you don't want to bend the spine. I don't know. I love keeping my books as neat as possible, so I never bend the spine because I don't like those creases. But with this, having it ring bound means you can open it, you can write in it.
And you can flip it
It's
over
okay.
to whatever page, and no damage will be
Exactly.
done. So I
Exactly.
think this book is a bit of a spin-off from your YouTube channel, and your YouTube
100%.
channel that teaches people how to adult. Um, and you mentioned this already. You know, the resources were kind of there for the US and UK, and that's what prompted you to write this book. Which makes me think of, I was looking at one of your YouTube videos the other day, and there was a comment. I think it was like the most liked comment, where someone was like, "I can't put into words how much you've helped me as a young Black professional." And I think that this is a big niche of what you're filling, is that with I mean, I, as a white South African, I had a lot of resources given to me by my parents and my grandparents, in the sense of like my grandfather being like, "You're 21, let's go set up some money where let's go get you a financial advisor, and you can set up an investment account, and you can put
Mm,
X amount of money into an investment every month." My partner is Sudanese, and he doesn't even know what a financial advisor is. That's just like not a thing. And like, it's like, what is that? Why would you trust someone else with your money? So I think that for a lot of Black South Africans entering the corporate workforce, there hasn't been, parents or grandparents telling you this is how you finance your first car, or this is what you should be spending your money on, or
mm.
this is how you should plan your life. And I think this ties back to our conversation earlier. You know, the system trying to reject them, as you said, corporate South Africa is racist. The system is not only not exactly designed for Black South Africans, but also there is a lot of social capital that they haven't been given through connections, family, an uncle getting you your job in the first place, or whatever it is. So I kind of want
Yeah.
to know
And
if this is something you agree with.
so I definitely agree with the things you're saying. And the thing is, I know they're trying. I know corporate South Africa is trying to integrate. I know people are trying to bring us in. So I can obviously recognize those efforts, and I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh no, the world is always against us. No, there are active policies and active things to try and include us. However, when you are so used to not being included, you second guess everything. So when companies say, "Oh, we've got this for you," it's like, "Hold up, what's the catch?" And
Yeah.
when you spoke about financial advisors, I know I've also been like, why would I need someone? Why would I ever, talk to someone? I can just do it myself. I want to have control of everything. But the truth is, you're not that specialized. I'm a chartered accountant, but even I have a financial advisor. So someone who is not even in accounting or not, you know, well versed with the financial world definitely would need a financial advisor. The problem is that you don't understand why you need it. And also, when these companies do approach you, they're always trying to sell you something. And I think the reason my niche works so well is because I'm not selling anything. I am just telling you what I know. I am just giving you the educational tools, and if you want to do something with it, you can. I whether you take it or not, nothing changes in my life. But then this is also great because corporate South Africa, our besties, are actually also finally seeing the real beast or marketing beast that social media is. So now they're trying to come talk to us on our level. They're trying to get in. They are trying to do these ads on our videos and on our channels. But the thing is, a lot of creators, or South African creators rather, are so used to just taking deals or partnerships. It's money on the table. No one likes saying no to money on the table, so they'll just take it. Whereas with me, I do a lot of vetting. I do a lot of due diligence. If I don't really like your vibe, I'm not going to talk about it. And that's funny. And my dad's like, I don't know how you're saying no to money. My partner's also like, you're in a different world now. You can just say no. And I'm like, yes, because I understand the value that my community has, and I understand the trust that has been placed on me. So I'm not going to sell them short just because someone's coming in with a lot of numbers. but I know that I personally would not put my money in it. And my
Yeah.
philosophy is actually, I do the thing before I talk about it. I like to
Yeah.
sign up as just a normal person, which is why I find it so hard when brands come in and I've never worked with them, and they're like, okay, no, you can test out our profile. And it's like, yeah, but now you know I'm Nokuhle Kumalo. So when I sign up, you guys are going to give me the best of everything. And then when other
Yeah.
people sign up, they might not get the same experience. So I love working with brands that I have tried and tested myself, to the point where I actually
Definitely.
do try to pitch them to say, hey, I'm one of your users. I love this. You guys can improve on this though. Like, this is where I am not really too happy,
Yeah.
but I would love to speak more about you guys on my channel. Let's talk. And those are usually the best like relationships, because
Mhm.
I already believe in the product. I already myself am using it. So it's not like I'm recommending something that I don't believe in. So yeah, so I think
Mm.
corporate is trying. I'll give them that. And I think one of my actual passions now is to try and help them convey their message to people better. I even call myself a digital consultant these days when I don't know how to explain. Because saying I'm a YouTuber makes it feel like people just assume, oh, you probably just put on makeup and which it's fine.
Yeah.
Being a makeup and a beauty blogger is also a lot of hard work. Literally, if it wasn't, we'd all have face beads, but we're paying people
It's just
thousands because
broad.
we can't
It's a
master
broad
it.
spectrum. Yeah.
Exactly. But as soon as people hear YouTuber, they assume influencer, and then they kind of look at me like, okay, not really
Mm.
the type of, spec we're used to. But when I say
Mm.
digital consultant, that makes a lot more sense. They're like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
what do you do? And it's like, it's just branding. I literally, it's the same thing. I just called it a different word. But
YouTube
yeah,
consultant,
that's
Instagram consultant.
exactly.
uh,
Consultant makes it sound sexy, but it's the same thing.
yeah, yeah. So, um, what kind of went through my brain there? Oh my gosh, my brain just blanked. Um, how did I just forget my question? Thank God I can edit this.
Yeah,
I was trying to hold
luckily it's
two.
not live.
I was trying to hold two thoughts in my brain at the same time, and I just lost both of them. Um, but anyway, I guess we'll move on. So you opted to go the self-publishing route with your book.
Hmm.
Why did you choose self-publishing, and what has that journey been like?
To be fair, I wrote a book by mistake, which I know is not something I
Yeah.
should be saying because your whole thing is for authors, but
No,
my
no, no, no.
authoring journey was a mistake. I was just trying to give the same format, the same content rather, just in a different format. Because as much as I'm a YouTuber, I actually don't like watching things on YouTube. I don't have the attention span for it. And I also learn better when I'm writing. So I was like, oh, let me just do something similar but written format. But also when it's written, you have more creative freedom to do a lot more and say a lot more because it's your thing.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. So it was just meant to be a jotting down my thoughts, jotting down the key things from my videos and kind of elaborating or explaining why people need to do certain things. Because with finance, a lot of people want to ask why. And that's a good thing. It's good to be curious. So in the book, I do kind of explain it so that even when you're doing it, you understand, oh, the reason I'm budgeting isn't because, I don't have enough money or because they just want me to see how little money I have. No, I'm budgeting because I have certain goals, long term, medium, and short term. And if I plan my money accordingly, I can actually reach these goals faster. Okay, cool. That's nice. We're planning for your big Ferrari on your 10K salary. So that's great. Um, so yeah, so that's what happened. And then when I wrote it, it was ready, and I was like, okay, let me get some quotes. And I
Hold
started
it.
running around town,
Mm.
asking how much is it to print this many pages in color. I want a nice texture. I don't, I gave them the specs and people were quoting me. And then I was like, okay, cool. I don't know how we're gonna, bind it. I think maybe a book, but a book is hard to write in. So I was just doing something. And honestly, when I placed my first order, I was just gonna do 30 because I only
Mm.
thought, no man, No one is going to want to buy this, especially because this information can be found. Just scattered. You can search on Google. You might find some stuff on my YouTube, but I'm sure people can, collect it somehow. So why would they pay money for it? But people bought, and I found myself ordering more and more and more. And then when I was like, I think I was on my 150th order, I was like, actually, this isn't our book. Like, I actually need to check that I'm not contravening any laws. So, and I think I wanted to list it on Amazon actually, and they were like, okay, what's the barcode? And I was like, barcode? This is my own book. What
Barcode.
do you mean? Like, what barcode? So I had to get
To
all
give
of
the
that. I
creative,
had to apply for an
you had to
I. Yes, and do you know how hard it is getting a barcode? I did not expect that. I thought it was just going to be a thing of, how you can create a QR
the
code
QR
easily.
code.
I thought it was
Yeah,
going to be
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
No.
No, with the barcode, it's an ISBN number, and then you have to notify the National Libraries of South Africa. I was like, this was a
Whoa.
mistake. Um, but yeah, so that happened. But now that I think I've had over 250, close to 300 sales. And I've just been doing it myself. I haven't done any active marketing. I will post it on my story like once every 2 weeks just to remind people, and I have a highlight. But I don't do any active marketing. I don't talk about it on my channel where I have 100K subs. So it's like I'm just trying to see if people are going to buy it when I'm not doing anything actively. And I mean, I've sold. I even have a lot of corporate clients who are also trying to make orders.
Yeah.
So I also have things lined up. So it's like interesting, So corporates are also like, hey, we want to give your book to people who are starting out at our company or included in the welcome packs. I'm like, oh, I did not think of that. That is a great revenue deal. So now that I have
Get
proof
it?
of concept, I am ready to, go full on. I'm actually busy writing a second one, a different
Yes.
version. This one will obviously also get another edition because there's updates. I've also asked
Yeah.
people who bought the book in the past to tell me what you liked or tell me what you didn't like. Let's see what we can make changes on. But the new book that I'm writing is for high school because this one is
Yeah.
mainly for the gap between university and the workplace. Now I just want to do one for high school. Like when you're leaving high school and joining
Yeah.
university, what are the things you need to know? What are the things we wish we knew before we started? It ranges from the type of careers you can follow because not everyone has to go through traditional university. Others can go to technicon, others can do apprenticeships, entrepreneurship. There's so many different angles, but we were all kind of funneled into the same one, which I don't complain about, but give the younger people an option to choose, and kind of also show them because a lot of us didn't know what we didn't know. Even with careers, I didn't know you could get to university and pick and choose what you're studying. I know people who did economics, linguistics, and I'm like, how did you find that? Where was that on the brochure? I thought you're either an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor,
You're an engineer.
journalist, or an engineer. You got
You're a
five
journalist in
choices.
the
Choose.
class.
So
Teacher.
now you're
Teacher.
doing psychology with, and I'm like, oh, if I knew this, I probably would have added in marketing in my accounting degree because I think I love that. But these are the things I think people need to know before they come to university or in their first year. Even the principles of consent. I've seen a lot of people wash out of university a lot earlier than they should have just because they didn't really understand the sex talk. People
Yeah.
get pregnant, and it's like, how did you get pregnant? But I realized we don't all get the same sex talk. And also, people don't understand consent. Now, people are getting into big trouble because they didn't know that, if you guys are both drunk, you
Yeah.
guys can't really consent. Are you aware of this? So, trying to help people to not make mistakes. Obviously, people will always make mistakes, and that's okay. But
Mm.
some of them are just expensive, and if you can avoid them, do avoid them.
Mm.
That's the whole purpose and the objective
The gap
of these
between
books.
high school and the gap between high school and adulthood is huge. I remember like just being like, what? How did we not know any of this information until we left the confines of our home?
We we
So
we were
that
we were from a
ties
small
that.
city. That's why. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, small towns. So I know, just my final question about the book, and then we can close up. I know that partnering with corporations has been a way of getting sales, and I think it's amazing that you've had these sales in spite of you. I mean, you didn't have a book launch, you didn't do like a lot of the huge runway of prep that people do for writing books, which is also to say that like you don't have to overthink it. If you want to write a book, you can just write the thing, and
You'll
maybe
figure it out along the
people do.
way.
So partnering with corporates and getting kind of sales, if anyone is interested in doing that, perhaps they're a speaker or a consultant or have some kind of complimentary service where they could perhaps try get the corporations to buy the books
Mhm.
and result to a reduced speaking fee or something like that. What has your experience been like here, and would you have any advice for people who are looking to do something similar?
So firstly, don't shoot, your foot when you're leaving, wherever you're leaving, because those relationships, you've already made them, so don't let them go to waste. I'm not saying tell them, oh, I'm leaving, but I'll call you. No, you're not desperate. But knowing that you have those relationships and them also knowing what you're doing post you leaving, if they have an interest, they can reach out to you. But main thing would be social media. I think social media is big. Like, speak on social media, tell people what you're doing. You don't have to tell them every single day. People get annoyed. I get annoyed. I will literally mute you if every single status of yours is you selling me something. No, I'm a recovering shopaholic, so I don't need to be seeing your little, whatever. Tell us or show us why you're using it, or just integrate it normally into your life, and then I'll be like, oh, actually, that looks like a nice thing. Um, Also, have a really great book and recommend your people to
Yeah.
review. So when people buy books, they read it, and you might enjoy a book, but you don't really think about giving them a review because they've probably sold so many. But you, as
Yeah.
the author, should encourage people to, give you some feedback. What did they like? What didn't they like? I usually get my reviews through. So on my when you're buying it on my Shopify, there's an automated reviewing element. So like after I think 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks since your purchase, they'll ask you, what do you think? And I think I made it that long because firstly, I want to make sure you have the book. Uh,
Yeah.
Anything could have happened. But then secondly, I also want to give you a chance to actually go through it. Obviously, I don't think everyone would have been done with the book in 4 weeks. But at least you would have had a chapter or two just to see if you're happy or not. And if you're not, let me know. I actually love negative comments. I know this sounds bad, but that's where I can grow the most. I also love the positives because it kind of breathes life into me and it affirms me that I'm doing something great. But the negatives are always great because it's like I know where to improve, I know what to fix. And then I'm also very good at updating you. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. We'll look into this. Thanks for catching my blind spots, blah, 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 blah. But my community is actually quite respectful. So no one ever has anything rude to say. Um, they kind of like it to the point where I'll beg them, please, guys, I need constructive criticism. But luckily, my partner, like, say something, say be mean, but in a nice way. But luckily, my partner and my younger brother are very good with this. And this sounds terrible, but they will literally tell me before I launch something into the public, they'll be like, not feeling this. Oh, this is giving. And at the time, I'll get very frustrated with them because how dare you? I put in so much work
Because
into
so much
this,
heart and soul went into this.
you know. But I always say afterwards, but thank you for telling me because I'd rather hear it from you and be able to fix it than have it, like, hear it from other people and then it's like too late because it's already gone out. So cool.
Yeah.
Social media, but also require people to review you so you know how to improve. And yeah, when you're partnering with people, when you're partnering with, if you're like popular, people call you in for keynotes or they ask you to advertise their own products, see how you can integrate your own products because you're not just advancing other people's brands, you are also a brand. So see how you can integrate. If someone calls you in, oh, we'd love to have you speak at the school, go to the school, but carry a couple of books, and tell the person who's liaising that you will bring a couple of books just in case anyone wants to buy, and talk to your book, talk to it, not sell the whole 45 minutes, but tell people, oh yeah, and I also wrote a book. Can grab a copy. It is available if you want anything, and then you continue with your speech. That way, people know, oh, there's a book. Oh, okay. And if people don't want to buy at that time, they can buy later. Tell them where to find it. And now that I've said that, if anyone does want my book, it is available on www.lomaku.co.za. Lomaku is actually a play on my surname. It's my surname's syllables just flipped over. So Kumalo
Oh
Lomaku.
my gosh, I had no idea. Oh my god, like
Yeah.
I had no idea where the name came
Yeah.
from. Um, I love all of
No,
that
I was
so
trying
much.
to keep my surname. Sorry. I was saying
Okay,
I was trying to keep my surname. I have a feeling I'll change my surname whenever I get married. So I was like, I still need to have some Kumalo identity. So why not have a whole company? But obviously not make it too obvious that it's Kumalo.
I don't know. It could have just been Kumalo because also you have a different
No.
spelling for Kumalo than most Kumalos.
Yes, I do. Mm.
But this was so fantastic, and I think there's so many gems in here. So I just want to say thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
such a fantastic guest on the show. My final question is advice for me. So this
Okay.
podcast has a rejection wall. I'm
Mm-hmm.
framing the rejections from famous people that I get. So far, I've been rejected from Chimamanda Adichie, Roxane Gay, Esther Perel, among other names. Who do you think I should pitch next? And do you have any pitching advice on how to maybe not get them on the rejection wall and get them onto the wall of fame, the the acceptances wall?
I would have said pitch you next, but I'm pretty sure you're probably gonna do that already. Um,
Pitch who next?
I was gonna say you pitch yourself because I want to talk. I
Okay,
want
okay.
you to talk about. But I think I will recommend. Does it have to be an author?
Yes. Someone who's written a book.
Someone who's written a book. Wait, this is tough.
This is tough. Sorry.
Took forever. Okay, I've got a person that I would love to pitch for your show, and that is Dudu Busani Dube, and she wrote Somu the Wife. She has
Yes.
numerous books, and this has actually recently been converted into a telenovela in South Africa.
Ooh.
And yeah.
Nice.
So, and my pitching advice for her would be love to hear about how she, actually got into writing, how she made sure that her book wasn't just a PDF book. The reason I'm saying this is because when her first few books came out, a lot of us read them on our phones. They were kind of leaked, and we all just fell
Ah.
in love with it. Her entire series was leaked. We read the entire thing within 4 weeks. Um, but when she released the books, we also went and bought. So I just want to understand, how did she ensure that her leaked books still converted into actual sales, and even into a telenovela? And also, just based on the content of the book, Alice, I'd love to tell you about it whenever you do get a chance, if you are going to pitch her, just to ask her
Yes.
if she received any backlash from the content of this book, because this book does involve a lot of romance, South African romance, so very specific to our country, but it also includes some taxi violence and, gender-based violence,
Mm.
domestic abuse. So just wanting to understand if she felt like she was ever threatened based on her releasing the truth about some of these things. Yeah,
Ooh, this sounds
that's
juicy.
who.
Thank you.
It is
And
very juicy.
did she release the book herself? Did she leak it herself, or did someone else leak it?
I don't know. That's what you need to find out for us, because I don't know. I remember
Okay,
literally all
amazing.
all my cousins and I would literally be like, "Hey, have you read the second book?" What? No, there's a second book. Open your Bluetooth, and then we'd send it to each other, and we read the entire thing. And I was like,
Amazing.
"This person is good."
Okay, I will pitch her. This
Okay.
conversation's been so fantastic. I think one of my gems has really been the rejection resilience you've had your whole life. I don't know if you would frame it that way, but You even saying just now that when you get negative comments, you get so happy because you know you can grow. I think my theory is that the key differentiator between people who are successful and people who aren't is not that one gets rejected more than the other. I think it's that one does something different with the rejections and what the other person does. And so you taking on those comments is like, whoa, there's stuff for me to learn. Is
Mm.
that's where the power lies, because you know I think a lot of people could be like, oh my god, I'm getting these comments, I should stop doing this, clearly people hate what I'm doing and I need to retreat. And my whole mission is don't do that, don't retreat, don't like hide because something bad happened. Use that as
Mm.
information that can inform what you do next. So South Africans, you can order a copy of Get Ready With Me, the work edition, either on Amazon South Africa or Shopify. I will also be giving away a copy to a listener who subscribes and reviews the podcast. You just need to email screenshots to media@hustlingwriters.com. There are instructions in the show notes. Thank you again, Nokuhle. This was such a
Thank
fantastic
you.
conversation.
Thank you so much, Alice, for having me. I absolutely loved this.
This was My Rejection Story, hosted by me, Alice Draper. Thank you for listening to today's episode of My Rejection Story. I hope this conversation was as fun as I had recording it. I enjoy every episode. So just a reminder that you can win a copy of a book every single week. I do a giveaway of the author I interviewed. So if you love this conversation and you really want to grab your get your hands on a copy of the book, please enter the giveaway. All you have to do is subscribe and review the podcast and email me at media@hustlingwriters.com. And if you've already done it, you can do it from another app. And if you've already done it on all your apps, you could also just borrow a friend's phone, do it from a friend's phone, and let me know, like, on the screenshots that you did it on a friend's phone, because the more reviews and subscribes, the more likely I am to grow the show and make this podcast even bigger and better than it is, perhaps even get some funding, be able to invest money back in the show, and really just deliver on my promise to you, which is to make this as good as I can. So I just want to say a huge thank you quickly to my team, Christina Schild, Samantha Dubé, and Chechofacho Ndabane. This show would not be here if it wasn't for them and their tireless work and belief in this mission. And then a huge thank you to the distribution partners. So there are some amazing people out here trying to get the word out to their networks, and also people that I think you will find extremely helpful, because if you want to write a book and get a book out there, these are experts in book writing and book publishing. So a couple of writing coaches who are highly recommended in my field: Emily Tameo Maher, Lindy Feel, Tracy Stewart, and Javasia Harris Bowler are all highly recommended writing coaches. And I know so many people who have used writing coach, and it's really helped them get the word out there and get the book out there and not just stay stuck in that draft phase. So their details are all in the show notes. And then also Nick Courtwright is the CEO of a hybrid publishing house, which is an interesting way of publishing a book, and it's highly recommended. Many of my clients have gone through it with great success. You can find out all of Nick's details in the show notes as well. And if you have any questions about them or need their contact details because for some reason you can't find them, pop me an email. And thank you again for listening to the show. I'll see you next week for another conversation. And yeah, have a great Wednesday.